What's going on, y'all? What's going on? Got some bad news to report today. We're just now hearing, and this murder, this senseless killing, this victimization of this 36-year-old black woman in her own home happened on July 6th. But we're just now hearing about it. It seems the young mother Sonya Massey, R.I.P. to Sonya Massey, she was murdered by a trigger happy police officer who had previously been arrested for multiple DUIs and multiple prior offenses. They chose this man to enforce the law against Sonya Massey, who in fact was calling the police for help. So tonight we're kind of going to break down this situation. I think a lot of people have heard about it, but a lot of people haven't. So we're going to shine some light on the situation. We're going to shine some light on the situation. I'm going to play some clips of the family talking, and shout out to Sonya Macy's family. She looks like she has a strong black family, being led by her father. Her father gave some strong comments, so we're going to play that. I'm not going to play the video of the shooting itself. I did watch it in its entirety, but if you want, you can go and do your own due diligence. Go check out the situation and come back to hear my breakdown. But in a nutshell, this is what happened. About 200 miles south of Chicago, they're out there in Illinois. Sonya Macy called the police. She said that she suspected there was somebody in the bushes. She felt like there was somebody in the area doing something suspicious. So she called the police. One thing I got to stop and pause here, and it's a black woman. She was by herself, so I can't blame her for calling the police. But we as black people know when you call the police, you a lot of times you're calling danger to your house. You think you're calling police for help, but we as black people in America know that that's not always the case. A lot of times, if you're calling the police as a black person, you're calling for more danger to come to your doorstep, as Sonya Macy found out. I learned this lesson when I was 12 and my moped got stolen. I was in DC. A couple guys got me from my bike, got me from my moped. I was 12 years old and I didn't want to call the police. I walked home all sad after trying to find them myself, trying to catch up to the guys that did it. I was like, forget it. I lost it. Let me go home. Go home, tell my folks, hey, someone robbed me from my moped. My dad was like, all right, you got to call the police. You got to report your bike stolen. I didn't want to do that. I called the police, or my dad called the police. When they got down to the house, they started accusing me. What? You lost your moped? Why didn't you call us sooner? Accusatory. I'm 12 years old. And they asking me why I didn't call them sooner. Mad. And I'm like, this is why I didn't call. Because I don't think y'all are going to help. Lo and behold, they didn't help. They never did find that moped. So calling them, as far as I'm concerned, was a total waste of time. They're scolding me at 12 years old, and I'm the victim. So I learned early, the police are not your friends. The police are not here to help you. If you can't help yourself, count it as a loss because the police are not there to help you. But I digress. Sonya Massey, she called the police because she thought there was somebody in her bushes. She thought there was somebody suspicious doing something in her yard. Police come over, they take a look around the yard, they don't see anything. They say, oh, do you mind if we come into your house, make sure no one's inside the house? Sonya Massey says, fine. They come into the house. Sonya's sitting on the couch, they're having a conversation. The police, from the moment they got there, were aggressive, treating the woman who called the police, called for help, treating her as if she was somehow a criminal. From the moment they got there, from the moment they arrived to the house and knocked on her door, they were talking to her as if she was a criminal. I saw the video. They were talking to her very aggressively. Fine, there was no criminal in the area, but she's the one who called. They were accusing her, "Oh, do you have mental issues? What's wrong with you? What's wrong with you?" Even if she did have mental issues, she's not a criminal. She didn't she's the one who called for the police. She's the one that called for help. She didn't deserve to be treated like that. She's on her own property in her own home. If you looked around and you don't see anything, fine, just leave. But they treated her horribly from the moment they arrived at the house. Fast forward, the police are inside of her house. She's sitting on the couch. Two officers. One officer says, "Hey, you've got that pot boiling. There's a pot of water on the stove." She's like, "Oh, let me turn that off." One of the officers jokes, "Oh, yeah, that wouldn't be good if we burned up here." She's laughing. Yeah, that wouldn't be good. One of the officers, the one who didn't shoot first, is the one that has a modicum, just a hair of humanity in him, making jokes, making light of the situation. Yeah, it wouldn't be good if it burned down. Ha ha. Yeah, that would be bad. Okay. So that officer, the one who's joking around, who told the woman, who told Sonya to take the water off the stove, he goes towards the back of the house to look in other rooms to make sure there's no intruders inside the house. So he's looking in other rooms. When Sonya goes to the stove to take off the water that the officer pointed out and told her to remove, when he grabs it, when she goes and grabs the pot as she was directed by the police officer, the remaining officer who is still in the room, who is being more aggressive from the moment he arrived at the door, says, "You better not." The woman's like, "I better not what?" She was pouring out the water into the sink. In her mind, she's not even thinking, "I better not what?" She's like, "I rebuke that thought." He says, "You better not pour it on me," something of that effect. And she says, "What? I rebuke that. Like, I rebuke that thought, the thought of pouring hot water on you." The thought never even crossed her mind. You could tell she had no intention of pouring that water. There's a lot of distance. There's even a countertop in between Sonya Massey and the police officer Sean Grayson. And just to give y'all some background information, let me show you a quick picture so you know who I'm talking about here. This is Sonya Massey. This is Sonya Massey. Was Sonya Massey. She's a 36-year-old mother. So the police come in. She is at her stove. In between the stove and Sonya Massey, where Sonya Massey is standing at the stove, then you have a countertop dividing Sonya Massey from Sean Grayson, who is standing near the door. So there's a distance, there's a considerable distance between Sean Grayson and Sonya Massey. Not only is there a considerable distance between Sonya Massey and Sean Grayson, there's a countertop in between them, the two of them. There's a countertop in between the two of them. So Sean Grayson tells her, "You better not pour this hot water on him." And the woman, Sonya, isn't even thinking about doing something so outrageous. The thought hadn't crossed her mind. She says, "I rebuke that. I rebuke the thought of doing something so crazy." At that statement, Sean Grayson pulls his firearm and points it at Sonya Massey. Sonya Massey immediately apologizes. She says, "I'm sorry." And she ducks down. She says, "I'm sorry." And out of fear, she's like, he just pulled a gun on me. She says, "I'm sorry." And she drops like, "Wow, this guy is pulling a gun on me. I'm scared. I'm dropping down." Sean Grayson doesn't give her any other commands. He doesn't say, "Put your hands in the air." He doesn't say, "Drop the pot." What does Sean Grayson do? Sean Grayson walks around the countertop that's dividing Sonya Massey and himself. Sean Grayson closes the distance between Sonya Massey and himself. So if this is an officer, as they always say, in fear of his life, instead of telling her drop the pot, instead of telling her raise your hands, put your hands in the air, he pulls the gun and walks around the countertop, which is blocking Sonya and himself. He then shoots her while she's already on the ground. She, mind you, when he pulled her gun, at first she says, "I'm sorry," and she ducks down out of fear. So she is below the countertop at this point when the officer walks around the countertop and shoots her without giving any commands. Without giving any commands. Mind you, there's another officer who is in the house but in a different room at the time. He's coming out as Sean Grayson is turning the corner. As Sean Grayson is coming around the countertop, the second officer comes back in the room, sees Sean Grayson has his firearm drawn, decides to draw his firearm as well. Okay? Sean Grayson shoots Sonya, I think, 3 times in the face. Sean Grayson's partner, his partner, says, "Hey, should we render aid? She's still breathing. She's still breathing." Sean Grayson tells his partner, "No, don't bother. Don't waste your energy trying to help this woman who you just shot 3 times, who is still alive." She says, "That's a headshot. Don't worry about it. Don't help her." Not only is he himself not rendering aid, he's telling his partner not to render aid. Okay? Of course, Sonya Massey ends up passing away in her own home after having called this Neanderthal to her home seeking help. Now, tonight we're talking about Sonya Massey and the need for reparations. But I have to give due diligence as far as explaining the situation for those who are not aware. And I want to show some of the speeches that her family gave because I think it's important. I think that Sonya Massey, shout out to Sonya Massey, she has a strong black family who isn't talking that forgiveness stuff, who isn't saying, "Oh, it's okay, I understand," like a lot of Benjamin Krupp's clients do. Specifically her dad. Specifically her dad. So I want to start off with listening to what her father had to say. Y'all check this out.
But you know what? I want justice for my baby.
Yeah. Yes, sir.
You killed the wrong black woman this time.
And by the way, as we're watching, look at this young sister here. She looks like 12 years old. Look at this young sister, because she is, you can tell she's fuming too.
Amen. Amen. Amen.
So the people of Sangamon County have been great. But I want to tell y'all, the sheriff is here is an embarrassment. Because this man should have never had a badge. He should have never had a gun. He should have never been given the opportunity to kill my child. Because he had some serious blemishes on his record. Serious. This man had 2 convictions for DUI.
2 convictions.
He had a conviction for driving under the influence. And he was a member of law enforcement?
My Lord.
What an embarrassment. What an embarrassment to this country, to this county.
Now, I like that. I like that the father called out, hold on. I like that the father called out the entire country. He didn't say, "Oh, it's a lone wolf." You know, when when the police officers kill these unarmed folks, they always say, "Oh, well, it was just a lone wolf situation. It was just a bad apple." I like this father, Sonya Massey's dad, because he says, "No, it's not just a bad apple. It's not just him. It's an embarrassment to the sheriff. How is it that this man with 2 convictions is enforcing the law? It's not just him. Who hired him? It's an embarrassment to the sheriff. Not only is it an embarrassment to the sheriff, it's an embarrassment to the country." See, he didn't let them just make it seem as if Sean Massey is some bad apple, some lone wolf. No, he didn't let them get away. He holds them all accountable, and I like that. That's what I want to see. That's what I like to see in situations like this. Don't say, "Oh, we forgive and forget. It's just some bad apples." No, we've got to hold the entire system, the country that allows and perpetuates this. It's an embarrassment to the county, to the sheriff, and to the country as a whole. That this isn't a one off thing, this is a repetitive event. This is a repetitive event. So shout out to her father. And a quick bite me to Seabass says, "You need a job, buddy. I've got one. Never mind reparations. Go out and make some money. I'm making good money. Living in a house, got multiple properties. Don't worry about what I'm doing. Don't worry about what I'm doing in my life. I'm good. I'm good, man. I can do both." I can do both. I can work a 9 to 5 and run a business and have multiple properties and use a passport, travel abroad, seen more countries than you've seen states. I'm doing well in life. Don't worry about me, buddy. Don't worry about me. I'm worried about holding folks like this Sean Grayson accountable and making sure that his not guilty plea turns out to be the biggest mistake of his life. I hope he gets the book thrown at him. You worried about me and my job. You're not worried about this dude who just killed an unarmed woman in her own house? That's the problem. Embarrassment. Embarrassment. Especially this dude. Yeah, Seabass, you're an embarrassment to the country. Somebody, an innocent, unarmed woman gets killed in her own home, and you're worried about whether or not another man has a job. You're an embarrassment. And I like situations like this because it allows us to expose the embarrassment in the country. Folks like you, folks like Seabass, who try to deflect from a serious situation at hand. An innocent woman and a mother of a child gets killed. You think I'm going on someone's live, someone's channel, and asking, do they have a job? Nah, I'm not worried about do they have a job. I'm worried about what was the situation that led to this innocent woman's death. That's what I'm worried about, whether she be black, white, or purple, blue. But you get on someone's live worried about, oh, who has a job or not. Clown. That's the embarrassment that her father is talking about. And I'm glad that he calls it out and says it's an embarrassment on the county, it's an embarrassment on the country, it's an embarrassment on everyone like Seabass who thinks that deflecting, and trying to make ad hominem attacks is more important than finding justice for innocent young women who get killed in their homes by the state. By the state. This is state sanctioned violence because this police officer didn't plead guilty. He said not guilty. The jury isn't out yet. We don't know if this man is going to get immunity for these crimes. We don't know yet. But you're not worried about that. People have been and watch this Seabass clown. He probably considers himself a conservative. He probably considers himself a conservative. Think about the conservatives like Alex Jones, who've been talking about the police state for how many decades now? Have the conservatives been telling us and warning us about a police state? But when black people point out, hey, we've got these police officers who are walking into people's homes, shooting unarmed men and women, and getting away with it, getting immunity for these crimes, this is an issue. All those same conservatives who talk about the warnings of a police state They sort all of a sudden are too worried about who has a job and who doesn't. Embarrassment. Embarrassment. So shout out to Sonya Massey's father. Shout out to Sonya Massey's father. And after all that, you think I'm still a victim. I don't think I'm a victim. I think Sonya Massey is a victim. The Seabass dude, see, you're slow, bro. You worried about me. I never said I'm a victim. I never said I'm a victim. I said Sonya Massey is a victim. See? See, reparations isn't about an individual. Reparations is about the inheritance that was stolen from foundational black Americans as a group and the need for that inheritance and those funds in order to police our own, in order to be responsible for our own communities, such as the Native Americans. See, the Native Americans, they have reservations, which means they have their own land. On those reservations, they have their own police forces. Huh? So when we're talking about reparations, that's what we're talking about. We're talking about having our own police forces. So folks who are living on our own land allotments received, once we get the repair for the centuries of harm done to our community specifically and uniquely, we'll be able to police our own. And we're not like Sean Grayson. We're not going into innocent, unarmed women's homes shooting people for no reason. This is a mugshot you don't really see. You don't really see black cops going into people's homes shooting unarmed women. We don't really see that a lot. Seabass. We don't see a whole lot of that. We don't see black cops just shooting unarmed folks for no reason in their own homes after they are the ones that called for help. We don't see that. So when we get our reparations, not if, but when, we'll have the funds to police ourselves on our own land allotments, and we won't have to worry about these demons like Sean Grayson. We call out for help, and we got demons showing up to our door. And then we got more demons on the internet like Seabass willing to protect them and defend them and deflect from the issue at hand. Huh? So I played you the clip of Sonya Macy's father speaking, pointing out that this officer should have never been on the force with multiple DUI convictions from the moment he arrived at the door at this woman's house. And this is the woman who called for help, who called the police in the first place. They treated her with nothing but contempt from the moment they set foot on her property. I want to play another clip because, the black women, they tend to ride for us black men. When a black man gets shot by these unarmed officers, I see a lot of black females, black women marching. I see them out there doing what they can to bring attention to the cause, attention to this issue. And I think we as black men owe them a duty to do the same. We've got to bring attention when folks like Sonya Massey get murdered in their own home. And that's not okay. And we as black men aren't scared to hear clowns like Seabass on the internet trying to justify it and deflect. So I want to play one more clip. And this is a black woman speaking. And she made an interesting point. Because starting back in, was it 2010, 2011, when Trayvon Martin was killed while Barack Obama was in office? Starting from that point, that was really a catalyst where we started seeing a significant increase in these unarmed black folks getting killed, especially on camera. We saw an increase starting from that point. But for the most part, it's been a lot of black men. You have some folks like Sandra Bland. You do have some black females um, who have been killed, but it's really been a lot of black men who have been facing the brunt of this onslaught by this state sanctioned killings. Whereas in the not too recently I should say, we've been seeing more and more black women getting victimized by these race soldiers. And I think this lady made a good point. Y'all check this out. Hold on. Hold on, hold on, hold on. Boom. All right, check this out. Time when we shot our black men, and we were afraid for our husbands, our sons, and our brothers, and we prayed that they would make it home. Now we're afraid ourselves. A black woman being home alone, calling 911 for assistance and ending up dead. That's not the way it should be. This was a horrible situation that took place in my hometown, Abraham Lincoln's hometown, the hometown of the 1908 race riots that led to the start of the NAACP, the oldest civil rights organization in the world. But people don't care. So we are here today to say that we want justice for Sonya Massey. Justice for Sonya Massey.
Justice.
Justice for Sonya Massey. It is imperative that we do everything to make sure that this officer spends the rest of his life behind bars. I stand here today with his father, with his daughter, with his uncles, her uncles, and everyone else, with our state senator. But you can all hear from them for yourselves. At this time, it's not an honor today. It's a necessary for us to bring up the Honorable Benjamin Crump. Let's give him a hand as he comes forward. So listen, she made a good point. It used to be a time where we had to just worry about black men getting gunned down by these race soldiers. But now it looks like they're taking off all the brakes. They're getting bold out here. They're targeting innocent black women in their own homes. They're targeting innocent black women in our own homes. And I saw the video of the situation with Sonya Massey. That officer, from the second he closed the distance. I don't think you fully understand. He walked around the countertop to shoot the woman who was already ducked down, who had already apologized. Didn't tell her, hey, he could have just stood where he was at and said, hey, lift your hands, put your hands in the air, drop the pot. Nothing. He closes the gap, walks around the counter, so afraid. He's not afraid. He went and gunned the woman down in her own home while she was ducking and hiding. He was ducking and hiding. And as soon as he shot her, he starts covering his tracks. Oh, I'm not taking I'm not taking boiling water to the face. The woman never threatened you. She never had any intention to hit you with that water. And he knows that. He knows that. But see, that's all it takes. You get a few of these juries, these few of these folks from Illinois, these folks in these white suburbs to get on that jury. Jury nullification is real, whether he be guilty or not. Anyone who watched that video can see that man had ill intentions from the moment he showed up to her house. But jury nullification, he gets one or two jurors who are on the white supremacist code, throwing up those white power signs. Oh yeah, you think we don't know? We know what it is. Throwing up those white power signs. Yeah. And that man will be free. And folks like Sean Bass will be happy about it. So listen, man, that's the situation with Sonya Massey. And what I'm saying is this further shows why we need reparations. Because we as foundational black Americans, we cannot trust these suspected white supremacists to police us. No. No. You know, the Jews, think about right now. Right now, they've got a whole war going on in the Middle East with Israel and Gaza. And the crux of the Israeli argument is Israel must remain a state because there's no place where the Jews are safe. The Jews without Israel will have no state that will protect them from its enemies. That's the whole Israeli argument. Is Israel must be a state because it's the only, they need a country of their own. Otherwise they'll be a people without a country. If that logic applies for the Israelis, I don't see how it would not apply for foundational black Americans. I don't see how it would apply. If it applies for the Jewish people, the true Hebrew Israelites, the true foundational black Americans, it absolutely applies to us. Because from the moment we set foot on this land, the only people who are here not by choice. One thing that makes the foundational black Americans a unique lineage is we are the only people in America who are here historically not by choice. Every other immigrant group came here or descended from a person who chose to be here. Foundational black Americans are the only ones who descended from people who did not choose to be here. Yet, this is our country, we built it, and now we are demanding for repair for the harms that have been done and the harms that continue to be done to us. We cannot trust, and the reason I'm holding the government responsible for this is because Sean Malley was acting on behalf of the state. Sean Malley, when he killed Sonya Massey, Sean Grayson, was acting on behalf of the state. And we see this as a common occurrence. These folks are transferred from department to department, having multiple convictions on their record, having multiple complaints against them, multiple people reporting that these people are abusing their power. They just transfer to a different department, a different precinct, and they continue to rinse and repeat these dirty cops who have nothing but ill intentions toward foundational black Americans with the backing of the U.S. government. A shield, the badge and shield. This is why we need reparations. Just like the Native Americans don't trust their safety to the U.S. government, they have their own reservations, meaning their own land, and they have their own police departments where they're able to enforce their own laws. I say the foundational black Americans need and deserve the exact same. Foundational black Americans need reparations, reparations in the form of direct financial payments and, not or, and land grants must be included in the reparation package. It must be included in the reparation package. Land, just like the Native Americans got. The Native Americans is the blueprint for reparations in America. Think about the Homestead Act. For centuries, trillions of dollars worth of land was given to these white populations in America, to white Americans, who for centuries and generations have passed it down through what? Inheritance. So when they say black Americans, you didn't go through slavery, tell them that's true, but the funds that were stolen from our ancestors were lost to us through lost inheritance. And conversely, the money that was gained in your community was passed down through inheritance. So if you get to keep the money that was stolen or illegitimately gained through the process of slavery and Jim Crow and redlining, effectively taxing people and taking their taxes and locking those resources in the white community while putting nothing but deprivation in the black community, if all the wealth and plunder gained by a white community gets to stay and be passed down in their community through inheritance, then the claim that the black Americans' ancestors, our parents, our grandparents, our great grandparents, and beyond, that claim is also passed down. The drought, the lack of resources. You guys keep the resources, you guys pass down the resources, and we have passed down a lack of resources. And you might say, okay, you should fight against that. You should pull yourself up by your bootstrap. That's what I'm doing by pushing reparations. This takes energy. This takes energy. Coming up here every day, talking about the need for reparations, being politically involved, that takes energy. Sean Bass said, get a job. I have a job. I have a job. I have a family. I could be taking this time and spending it with my family. But no, I'm sacrificing consistently energy to call for something that I believe will better the entire black community, not just myself. That's work. That's work. Whether you respect it or not, that's work. And that's what I think all black Americans should be doing, is getting on here saying in unison, saying with unity, the call for reparations is legitimate and we're not going to let up off of it until we have our own land, our own police departments, and repair for the harm that has been consistently applied, the pressure that has been consistently applied to the foundational black Americans. We need to call out and acknowledge the fact that we are in need and deserving of repair, restorative justice, because it is not an option to accept that this type of treatment is inevitable and we should just get used to it. That's unacceptable. That's unacceptable. Neither should we be expected to trust that our open enemies will just all of a sudden change their minds and agree to do right by us. No. We have to be given the sovereignty and the space to do for self, to police ourselves. One of the reasons the crime rate, they love to say, hey, what about black on black crime? What about, violence in Chicago? The reason the black on black crime is so high is because that's us trying to police ourselves. Huh? Let me break this down right quick. The reason the crime in the black community is so high is because of folks like Sean Grayson. Folks like Sean Grayson is the reason why crime in the black community is so high. Now you might be thinking, what? How is that? He's a white guy. How is a white police officer increasing the crime rate in the black community? The reason is black Americans, foundational black Americans in particular, do not feel comfortable calling the police because we know a dude like Sean Grayson might show up and shoot our sisters in the face while she's unarmed in her own home. So instead of calling the police and risking a guy like Sean Grayson showing up to our house, we decide to do it, handle business ourselves. Call our brothers, call our cousins. I told you the first time I ever called the police, I was 12 and I was the victim of a crime. I was the victim of you could call it a carjacking. I was on a moped. Some guys hopped out. I was in a McDonald's drive-through. Some guys hopped out in the drive-through. One comes up behind me, L's me out. The other dude jumps on the moped and rides away. So I square up with the dude who had me in the L after the dude rides off with my moped. I square up with him. I start trying to box him. He jumps into the car which pulled up on me. Skirt, they get out of there. This was the first time I had ever been a victim of a crime, and this is the first time I ever called for the police. I didn't even want to call for the police. I tried to find them myself because in my mind, I already knew I can't count on the police to do anything. When I finally get home, my dad says I gotta call the police and report the bike stolen. I call in, my dad calls in, we report the bike stolen, cops show up and accuse me, the victim. What were you doing? Where were you at? Why didn't you call us sooner? I'm the victim. Why didn't I call you? Because of the way you're acting now, and I'm only 12. I'm only 12. There's no empathy for the fact that some dudes just walked up behind me and robbed me from my moped. No empathy for me as the victim. So I know from a young age, the cops are not, they're not helpful. They're not here to protect, protect and serve. You think you can count on these dudes to protect and serve? No. So why is the crime rate so high in the black community? It's because we got to count on ourselves. We don't have access to a police department that will protect and serve us. We've got Sean Graysons showing up to our homes, showing up to the homes of 12-year-old black boys who are the victims of crimes. We've got Sean Graysons victimizing the victims. Huh? So instead of calling the police, who will further victimize us, we call our brothers, we call our cousins, we call our fathers, who take it upon themselves to handle the duty that the police officers are unable and or unwilling to do. But then when we handle it, now all of a sudden we're getting arrested. We, the person who's responding to the criminals, we end up getting arrested for what? Murder. Think about O.J. Simpson. He was arrested for stealing his own property back. O.J. Simpson did time in prison for what? Stealing his own property. Something that was taken from him, he tried to take it back. He was arrested and served time for stealing his own property. That's an all too common occurrence. Someone tries to rob you, you don't let them, you shoot the robber, now you're in prison for murder. This type of thing is why the crime rate in the black community is so high. Because we can't trust the police. We got to trust ourselves. And when you do it by yourself, it ends up turning into vigilante justice. They call us vigilantes. But that's really what it is. When you see gang wars, it's really a lot of times what happens is, oh, some sister didn't make it home safely. She got touched. And her brothers and cousins are going to handle that for her. That's a common occurrence. What? You touched my sister? What? I'm showing up at your house. Now, either I'm going to end up dead or you're going to end up dead, but it's a problem you touched my sister. And I'm not calling the police. Why? Because this dude might show up and he's not going to be helpful to either one of us. So the reason the crime rate in the black community is so high is because we can't trust the police, which is further my case for why we need reparations. We need our own land where we can police ourselves. All right, man. Just talking about this is going to get me hyped, so I'm going to digress. Today, as always, is a sponsored video, so shout out to our sponsors. And as a matter of fact, this is our last sponsored video. This is our last and final sickle cell PSA. So shout out and salute, a big salute to the sponsors of today's video. Hey, it's been great running these ads, running these PSAs. I would be more than happy to participate in another program or continue continue spreading the message to the black community, specifically those suffering from sickle cell. So check out our very last sickle cell PSA. Check this out.
Thank you for joining me in this brainstorming session in order to help our patients grappling with sickle cell and alcohol. Any suggestions?
I think we as healthcare professionals can address the physiological impact of alcohol on sickle cell symptoms. You know, its potential to exacerbate crises and the mental struggles that come with that individuals are facing.
Individuals dealing with sickle cell and confronting challenges related to alcohol use can turn to the Capital Substance Abuse and Mental Health Services Administration National Hotline. It's 1-800-662-4357.
That's great. You know, Smart Recovery USA, a non-governmental organization, offers a free, tailored approach to addressing alcohol-related challenges for individuals with sickle cell.
And we could be a little bit more understanding when they have outbursts in our offices. We know it's the pain talking. We don't criticize or stereotype white women when they're screaming or yelling during a delivery. So we should extend that same kind of patience and understanding to sickle cell disease patients.
These are all good insights. Let's break for now so we can share some of this information with our sickle cell community.
Boom. So that is our last. I want to do a double check here. Yep, absolutely. That is our last sickle cell PSA. I'm just going to do a quick check. Quick check, y'all. Bear with me before we end here. Yep, absolutely. Okay, guys, that's going to be it for today's video. If you've made it this far, be sure to hit the thumbs up button. If it's your first time watching, smash the subscribe button for content just like this. Drop a wide range of videos, topics ranging from news, politics, current events. We're talking a lot about hip hop, sports, wide range of topics here. So be sure to subscribe to the channel and come on back for more. Once again, respect to the family of Sonya Massey. May she rest in peace, rest in power, and may justice come for her and her family. I'll see y'all in the next one.